Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Mulligans and Milkshakes podcast presented by the Crimson Crossover Podcast Network. I'm your host, as always, Christian Sykes, joined again, as always, by Matthew Travis and Charles Branch. How are you guys doing today?
Doing great. Great week of golf for the podcast. We'll get into that a little after our interview, but doing great.
Yeah, really special week. Excited to talk about it. And then, of course, we got a major coming up this week. So just keep it rolling.
And as Matthew mentioned, we have an interview with Doug Bell. He does the PGA Tour live radio broadcast as well as does feature hold coverage again for PGA Tour live. We're going to send you straight to that interview and then we'll catch up with you guys after the interview. Enjoy.
Hey guys, we are now joined by Doug Bell. He's the on-course reporter for PGA Tour Live, as you can see on your shirt if you're watching with us. Doug, we appreciate you joining us.
Thanks for having me, guys. They give me all these free shirts, and so what the heck? Let's wear them, right? And they feel good. Right.
That's right. So we're coming off the Wells Fargo Championship. Rory getting his fourth win in Charlotte. Solid week really across the board. But what did you kind of see out of Rory, and is he making the right steps as we approach Valhalla, where he's already won before?
Well, he obviously loves Quail Hollow. It's his favorite golf course, and he said that, and he loves the city of Charlotte. He's won 4 times, guys. So, there is something to horses for courses. And I'll say this, and I said this the other day on PGA Live. It's kind of like the Kansas City Chiefs playing at home at Arrowhead or the Knicks playing at Madison Square Garden. And in golf, you don't really have a home field advantage, but in this case, you do. When Rory steps on the property, the biggest galleries are with him. He feeds off the energy. And then most importantly, the golf course sets up for his power game. Different from maybe any other stop on the PGA Tour, except maybe Valhalla. He can literally hit his driver on every par 5 or par 4 or the 3-wood. And when he can do that and hit it farther than anybody else, which he did last week, and cut corners, guys at 16, they moved the tee back because of him. The fairway bunker on the right, it's 330 to carry the bunker, and he did it with ease again. So he just loves the place, played brilliantly, and I think Xander Schauffele was just overwhelmed. 8 or 9 holes into that final round, Xander was like, oh my goodness, I'm not as good as this guy. And Rory just steamrolled him. So yeah, his game's in a great spot, guys. We thought he was lost 3 or 4 months ago. Obviously he's found something.
There are a lot of stats that point to him maybe having success this week at Valhalla, but Scotty Scheffler is obviously expected to be back in the field unless Meredith had. We still don't know, but do you think anyone can beat Scotty, or is it just Scotty's world and we're all just living in it?
Well, it's interesting. Now we have a major championship where world number 1 comes in having won his last 2 starts, and world number 2 comes in having won his last 2 starts. So those are obviously big storylines. And Scotty, we know he's been at home for 3 weeks, but we know he's been practicing. That's what he does, even though they celebrated the birth of their first baby on Saturday. So I think he certainly comes to Valhalla refreshed, well-rested. But again, we talked about the power game for Rory. Scotty, I mean, he can do literally whatever he wants, moving it left, right, left, high, low. So Valhalla sets up for him. But guys, every one of the top 100 of the world rankings, 100 out of 100 are at Valhalla. So it'll be an interesting twist. And obviously when live players come over, it adds even more of that excitement. I mean, listen, Rahm's there, Koepka, our defending champion, DeChambeau. Guys, it's going to be a fun week at a Bombers golf course.
So we've been on Meredith watch for the last month. On this podcast, there was one week, I think it was the week after the Heritage, where we do a fantasy golf pick'em type of thing, and myself and Charles didn't pick Scotty Scheffler with our first picks because we were on Meredith watch. So it's good to know that Meredith watch is over and the baby has been born, so it'll help our fantasy picks. But talking about Rory and his kind of how he took over the game or the round yesterday. He goes 8 under through 8 holes. And on top of that, he has 2 eagles on the back 9 at 10 and 15. We were fortunate enough. I attended and I was able to. We got a great video of the chip in. Because the Wells Fargo, I think, for the large part of the week, played pretty difficult relative. If you look at the rest of the scoring with Xander, outside of Xander and Rory, how impressive is it that not only does Rory come back and chase down Xander, but then outside of getting a double bogey on 18, he handily beats him, coming into the back 9. Like I don't think I've seen a script flip that fast as far as a tournament is concerned. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it again goes back to a golf course that he doesn't have to think because he knows, hey, listen, on this hole, this par 5, I'm hitting the driver. I'm going over the corner like we've done for 15 years. I don't even have to think about it. Same way in the par 4s. Guys, he was 9 under in the par 5s, and he was 8 under on the par 4s until the double on the 72nd hole, which really was irrelevant. And he was under par in the par 3s. I mean, he absolutely dominated a really tough golf course. So I think when he gets to Quail Hollow, and he doesn't show up 2 days before to do practice rounds because he knows it, and he laughs when they bring the tees back. And Johnny Harris, who obviously built Quail Hollow, was Arnold Palmer's great friend. He moved that tee all the way back, and Rory was going to get with him afterwards and say, what are you going to now move it to the parking lot? We're talking at 16, right? And you can't go back any farther. So listen, he found his game at a place that he loves. He first found it in New Orleans, and Matthew and I were there, and he and Shane had a lot of fun. And on the weekend, Rory, it just all clicked. He was the MVP of the team, especially on Sunday. And then that carries over now to Quail Hollow. I think Rory is pumped. And it's interesting, guys. I said this on PGA Live. This is his 4th win. Obviously hasn't won a major in 10 years. And I said, he's not as good as he was 10 years ago. I mean, come on. But he's as good once as he ever was, like the old Toby Keith song, right? And I think we saw that this week. And I think he's invigorated. Listen, all the big names are there. Tiger looks like he's been working out. He's been up there practicing. I mean, this is all set up for a phenomenal week. And the reason I say that is because all these guys, Jon Rahm, what's he been doing? Sitting on the couch, getting frustrated because all these guys are doing great things. I think they get there, they see the biggest names, Scotty, this guy, and I think they're all pumped up. And listen, they're golfers, right? They're not football players. They're not basketball players. But I think in their own way, these golfers get all revved up because they want to go out there and show that they're the best.
Yeah, you mentioned a couple of them there. All the live golfers are back, and it's obviously been a narrative we've been talking about for 2 years, 3 years now. But they had success at the majors last year. At the Masters, they didn't really have that same success. Brooks, obviously, the reigning PGA champ. Do you see any of the live golfers maybe contending come Sunday?
Matthew, yeah, I do. Simply because Valhalla is a long golf course. And it favors guys who hit it a long way. And the fairways are pretty generous. So, you can hit that driver, and if you just miss it a little bit here or there, you'll be okay. So I think that sets up for Koepka perfectly. And for whatever reason, this guy, it's a major championship, so he kind of goes into this different mode. I think DeChambeau is a guy that we've kind of forgotten about. Other than social media, when he's goofing around with Paige Sporanic, we never say anything about this guy, right? But he's the longest hitter in the world. I think that'll be an advantage. We know what Rory does. Scotty, they don't talk about his length, but Scotty Scheffler gets it out there as far as he needs to, right? He's got that extra element. So, yeah, I think the live guys, Jon Rahm, guys, Jon Rahm, he's this Spaniard who wears his emotions on his sleeve and slams clubs and gets frustrated. Has he been doing that, or is he just sitting at home counting money? I don't know. Something tells me that he'll be motivated this week, and he hasn't played good on live. Jon Rahm has not won an individual event on live yet. So Koepka has, by the way, just a few weeks ago. So we'll see what happens. Matthew, listen, I respect those live guys. I like them. The only thing is we never get to see them. So when they come in, they're just major question marks. I have no idea how Jon Rahm is playing. But but something tells me his odds are pretty good. So I kind of like his odds right now.
So another guy that hasn't been mentioned is Justin Thomas. This is kind of a homecoming for him. Valhalla. I believe that he's, this isn't 100%, and you probably know more than me about this, but I'm pretty sure he's probably grown up on Valhalla. He's played it quite a few times, just being from the Kentucky area. What do you like about Justin Thomas and his chances for potential another PGA win?
Well, he played pretty good. He didn't play great, but I thought he played good enough at Quail Hollow, which I think will give him some confidence going in. It is a home game, Goshen, Kentucky, right outside of Louisville. Valhalla is one of those courses. He mainly played his dad's course, which is right outside of Louisville. That's what he grew up on. But yeah, you're right. He's played Valhalla, and I think he's excited. All these guys have different reasons, right? And they always throw out the excuse, well, he's got to get all these tickets for all these people and relatives, and he'll be, pulled this direction, that direction. I don't buy it. I think Justin Thomas has been working hard on his game. Obviously, getting married and all that, moving into a different house. All these guys have these business deals that takes away from their prep a little bit. I mean, these are rich guys, right? And so I think Justin is kind of juggling a lot of things in his life, and fired his caddy. Got a new caddy, a month ago. So I think everything's slowly coming back. He's won 2 of these things, the Wanamaker. So it wouldn't shock me to see JT suddenly hit the switch and play well. Although I will say, as you asked the question, if you look at the analytics, he's well below the top players that we've been talking about. So we'll see.
And then we have another, like, this is Alabama Golf Podcast, so we have to talk about the young phenom, the sensation, the guy that won the Amex Championship as a amateur, Nick Dunlap. What you got to walk with him, I think it was all 18 on his final round, and you spent most of the week with him. But what have you seen from him as far as his game, his demeanor, that maybe not sets up for him to win, this year, but in future years? What have you seen from him? What do you like from him?
Great question. I worked with Colin Swatton this past week, and he's the swing instructor, mentor, longtime caddy for Jason Day. They came over from Australia together 20 years ago or whatever it was. And listen, this is a knowledgeable guy. And listen, guys, I taught him how to say roll tide, which is pretty funny. And he kept asking me, well, when do you say roll tide? I'm like, you say it whenever. He's like, but what does it mean? I said, it means hello. It means how you doing? And so to hear an Aussie, that was hilarious, by the way. And in his Aussie accent to say roll tide was great. But he pointed this out because we had Nick on quite a bit on our feature hole coverage and feature groups. He thinks it's not only a learning curve for Nick. Every time now he plays, he's never played these places, right? And he's going against the best. But he thinks it's a learning curve for Hunter Hambrick, his caddy, Hambo, who was really a great player at the University of Alabama and was a bona fide, great assistant coach. And then obviously went into the family business until Nick, cashed in there at Palm Springs. So I think both guys are learning. I think an experienced caddy is worth his weight in gold, as I'm learning from these guys on the PGA Tour. I know they don't hit shots, but these golfers depend on their caddies so much now, much more than they did 10, 20, 30 years ago. They're a team. So I think Nick and Hambo are learning. And I don't think we can judge Nick on any one of these finishes, whether he misses a cut or finishes at the bottom of a signature event, which he didn't this week. I mean, he played okay. I just think he needs to keep growing, keep building, and don't worry about the results at the end of this season. I think next year will be a big year for Nick Dunlap. Listen, he already has a win, right? I mean, how special was that? And you mentioned it. I got so excited walking with this guy on Sunday. And remember when he literally shanks one in the water? I think it was number 6, took the double and fell out of the lead. I said, oh my gosh, there it goes. Okay, wheels have come off. And then he comes back with a birdie on 2 of the next 4 holes. And then obviously Sam Burns made the mistake at 17. And then that 6-footer that he hit on the 72nd hole to beat Bizet by 1 shot. I mean, that was clutch, guys. I mean, my goodness. And his parents were there. It was just, and the golf coach, J. Sewell, was there. It was really cool. I really, I was a fly on the wall, but it was fun to feel all that camaraderie and that excitement. But I think the bottom line, I gave you a long answer, but the bottom line is he just needs to hang in there this year. And he has he's exempt through 2026. So keep playing, keep learning. He's got a lot of talent, guys, but he just needs to cut back. And you were there at Quail Hollow. He'll have 4 or 5 really good holes, and then all of a sudden a head scratching double bogey. A tee shot left, a tee shot into the trees right. With experience, he'll learn when to dial it back, where to hit it. I mean, man, oh man, is he on a major learning curve. I tell people all the time, as good as Nick Dunlap is, he's not even remotely close to Scotty Scheffler and those guys, right? I mean, it's amazing the competition out there. So I think Nick Dunlap is a great, and listen, he's mature beyond his 21 years. If you interview him, it's like, is this guy 41 or 51? So he's a smart kid. Obviously he has gifts that other golfers don't. He's built kind of like a basketball player with the long arms, big hands, big, powerful guy. So I think that'll help him too. So sky's the limit for the guy. Right now, the results aren't great, but I think a year from now, if you guys have me back on the pod, I think we'll be talking about him maybe winning again, and about a year from now.
I don't think we'll have a problem, asking you to come back on the pod if you'll just join with us in the future. But with those 2 questions about Justin Thomas and Nick Dunlap, and as you know, we have a slant to the University of Alabama, but I'm just thinking about golf as a whole within the state of Alabama. Just coming off the Regions, which is the premier tournament within the state. Obviously, University of Alabama's got a great golf team. Auburn's been very, very good this year. Gordon Sargent at Vanderbilt's from Alabama. I was talking to Stuart Sink after the Regions, who's from Florence, and he was talking about it's the last time he's played a professional tournament or a major tournament in the state of Alabama in the past 30 years. You get outside of Alabama, you talk to people who come down and play the Robert Trent Jones courses. While I was at Greystone, somebody had mentioned to me that the #1 swing coach now in golf, his home is Greystone. I know Eric Eshelman at Birmingham is also on the board for PGA of America. So when you think of just golf in the state of Alabama, is it one of the top states as it relates to not only good players that are coming out, great courses, but just a love for the game too?
Yes, an emphatic yes. And it's interesting is you described all those things. I'm thinking, wow, if thousands of people start watching the pod, guys, we're going to have all these people coming into our state. No, don't tell them about how great golf is. No, it's phenomenal. Mark Blackburn, by the way, has his academy there at Greystone, and he's considered, one of the top 1 or 2 teachers in the game right now. Max Homa comes into Birmingham all the time. Charlie Hoffman, and the list goes on for Mark Blackburn. Justin Rose, right before the Masters, stopped off. He played Shoal Creek, and he wanted to hang out with Mark over at Greystone. So yeah, isn't that great? I mean, it's really cool. And back during COVID, by the way, when everything was shut down, there were about 12 to 15 guys from the PGA Tour. Sepp Straka lives right down the street from Greystone, and the Corn Ferry that played these rounds just to stay dialed in, right? Pretty amazing. The number of guys that are kind of hanging out in the state of Alabama. Alabama guys, Auburn guys. The courses, guys, Shoal Creek is incredible. They're shutting it down to redo all the grasses here soon. They're going to redo the fairways, the greens. It's the crown jewel of golf in our state, but Greystone is right there. Birmingham Country Club is outstanding. And the course guide, Willow Point down at Lake Martin. I don't know if you guys have ever played there. It's one of my favorite golf courses in the country, and I love it. Those lake holes are just off the charts. And it's the other funny thing, Central Alabama Community College. If you go through the list of guys that came through there that have now either won a major championship or have had like a long, successful career in the PGA Tour. I mean, guys, Bubba Watson, Matt Wallace, by the way, who is an Englishman who kind of knocks it around, had a win last year on the PGA Tour. I mean, he played down at Jacksonville State. People don't realize all these things. I don't know. Yeah, I love my home state. Matthew knows I love golf, and we not only have some of the best golf courses that people don't talk about in the country, but our history going back. I mean, listen, guys, I was a big friend and fan of the late great Hubert Green, who grew up in Birmingham, Alabama. Somehow didn't go to Alabama or Auburn, went to Florida State. How did that happen? but he's a Hall of Famer and used to, up until the day he passed several years ago, would go out to Birmingham Country Club every day. If you went out there, Hubert Green was out on that range hitting golf balls. I don't know. I could go on for hours talking about it. And you were at the Regions. Listen, that's been around for 3 decades. And I did not know that about Stuart Sink. That's really, really cool. The fact this is his first professional tournament back in his home state. And people forget he lives over in Georgia, right? But he's an Alabama guy. And he grew up in Florence, state amateur champ from Florence. So, man, you get me excited, guys.
Going off it there, you're obviously an Alabama fan. Do you have any like memories that stick out being an Alabama fan over the years, going to games when you were a kid or anything of that nature?
Well, you guys are young guys, and my dad, Gabby Bell, was one of the original play-by-play voices of the Crimson Tide. And if you go to the Bryant Museum, and they have the little deal there with all the pictures of the guys who did the play-by-play, my dad's up there, Gabby Bell. So, listen, as a little kid, I grew up on Alabama sports, and not just football, even though that dominates the scene, right? I grew up my dad loved basketball and was the first radio play-by-play guy in Alabama basketball history, by the way. He convinced the radio station they could sell advertising for basketball. And at the time, this is in the 1950s. They're like, I don't think we can make money on that. But if you think you can, go ahead. And then my dad started doing it. And of course, now, how great Alabama basketball is, right, guys? So we need to get Nate Oates to play golf. How about we all get Nate Oates to go out and play around?
He wasn't at the Regions this week. Usually he is.
Yeah, that's right. And Coach Saban was back. Coach DeBoer, his swing was okay. Looks like he's been concentrating more on football. That's a good thing. Coach Saban's game has gotten better. I think when you move to Jupiter and start playing with all the pros, I think your game, just by pure osmosis, he's got to get better, right?
Well, you're down there right now. Why aren't you playing with him?
I'm going to give a plug for Coach Saban's golf coach, Steve Hudson, former Alabama golfer. I know he's been with him a while, and he was out there at the Regions. So, but yes, I would, as Matthew just said, through osmosis, I imagine you pick some things up from some professionals. That's what I'm hoping for after this past week.
Yeah, Steve Hudson, man. I love Steve too. And listen, a week ago, Hootie Ingram passed away, and he was one of my favorite guys in the whole world. And he taught me a lot of things over the years. Love the game of golf, guys. Love the game of golf like nobody else. And of course, his son, Cecil Jr., was not only a phenomenal player at the University of Alabama, but finished second at the USAM and played in the Masters and slept in the crow's nest. So a great history there. We could go on and on and on. And I've been very fortunate. Jerry Pate, obviously, is a friend, and I know he had a lot to do with the rebuild there of the Alabama golf facilities, which I think, guys, is going to be wow. I mean, we talk about the football build out and the basketball build out and all that. That new golf facility at Alabama is going to be sweet. And I know golf's like everything else, right? NIL and all this craziness is happening, but I think that'll be a great recruiting tool for Coach Sewell and his guys there in Tuscaloosa.
We have a question we ask all our Alabama fans. We'll get to that in a second, but this week, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask the story. Obviously, last year, aside from Brooks Koepka winning, it was Michael Block, the PGA professional, and finishing 15th. He's in it again this year. He said if he had Rory's distance, he'd be the best player in the world. I don't know about that, but do you think he can have any sort of success like we saw last year again?
Well, Matthew, that was fun, wasn't it? With all that was going on. I mean, and those shots that he pulled off the back nine on Sunday were incredible. But I think he's like a lot of guys. He captured lightning in a bottle that week, especially on Sunday, to get the invite back. And I don't see Michael making the cut. He didn't play really well. He got a lot of sponsors exemptions after that, and obviously took advantage of them. Why not? Let's do it. Let's roll the dice. But I think since last year's PGA and this year's PGA, he probably has lost a little more distance. And I think at Valhalla, you got to hit the long ball. So it'll be good to see him. He's going to do a lot of interviews pre-tournament, and he's great for the game. He really is a phenomenal interview, great ambassador for the game. But I will just to be honest, I think I'll be shocked if he makes the cut. If he's one of those club pros that makes the cut and heads into the weekend. But listen, he's a great footnote in PGA Championship history.
Talking about real quick, talking about losing distance, I do want to ask you about the golf rollback that's being discussed right now. What are your opinions on that? And I think the comments a minute would hurt the game, but I want you to talk about it as far as how it might affect us amateurs out there that just continue to want to get better and play and enjoy the game.
Well, again, it's old school versus new school. And if you talk to the Golden Bear, you talk to Gary Player, they will tell you this is something that should have been done a decade ago. And they feel the only way to save the game is to roll back the golf ball. Okay, that's old school. New school, I mean, I just don't buy it, because if you look at the scoring over the last 10 years, 20 years, it isn't a drastic difference. I mean, these guys do dominate golf courses, the older courses, but I don't think it's a good idea. I'm not sure Rory McIlroy and some of the top guys are into that either. So again, it's old school, new school. It's going to happen. The USGA announces it's going to happen. I think for you, me, and all of us here on the pod, I hate it, guys. I'm getting older. And listen, my guys still insist that I play in the championship tees with them. And right now they're hitting 9 irons in, and I'm hitting 7 irons and 6 irons. I hate it. And I'm losing money to these guys. And I can't imagine with a rollback. Oh my goodness. It's going to be a terrible thing. I just don't think it's necessary in today's game. And maybe we can all play a different golf ball. And I hate that too. I want to play the same ball as Scotty and Rory and Koepka and all the rest, and just see where it goes, right? But yeah, I'm not a big fan of the rollback. I thought it was unnecessary, but I know why they did it. Again, Jack Nicklaus and Gary Player, but especially Jack, still carries a lot of weight. And he's been hammering the USGA for years and years about the rollback. And I think that people at Augusta National, they carry a lot of weight too. And I think the idea was maybe we need to roll it back to make Augusta National more playable, because we can't just keep buying property and keep extending these holes back. So that's my thought on that. I'm not a proponent of the rollback. I think listen, DeChambeau's been out there with his launch monitor, and he's losing close to 20 yards. Now you're saying, well, gosh, he's still going to hit at 300, right? 295. Yeah, but I like it when he hits at 335. I mean, you saw what Rory was doing this past week. Some of those drives were 355 yards.
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody can do that, right? I think that's why these guys are so good. But we shall see.
So you were talking about growing the game and Michael Block with maybe kind of making the golf look more like a layman's sport, not necessarily country club. That's kind of my opinion. Basically meaning that like a regular person can go out and golf. You don't need to have these, high value swing coaches and all of these things to just be successful or be a scratch golfer. But you've seen the rise of YouTube golf. Good. Bob Does Sports, Grant Horvat, Michael Morris, the Brian Bros. Like all of these guys are out creating content. I think Good did an event on like NBC or something like that, and I think they have another one coming up. What is your opinion on YouTube golf and maybe its importance in the game?
Well, I think it's the age we live in, guys. It's the modern age, technology. Here's the deal. More people are playing golf right now post-pandemic than ever in the history of the game. And we're talking about all ages, all demographics. And the reason being, obviously, more people were introduced to the game during the pandemic, because what else are you going to do? Let's go out to the golf course. But at the same time, the Top Golf, the new place in Tuscaloosa, right? The new
Top Stroke.
Right. I mean, that's opening up. All the things you mentioned available online. It's all good for the game. It's not what the traditionalists want to see, but as Jack Nicklaus said in his interview at the Masters, it's still too expensive to belong to private clubs, and it's still very exclusive, and he doesn't ever see that changing. So I think the typical person who loves the game or is being introduced to the game wants an opportunity to play somewhere and have fun. And you guys know, you're young guys, nobody wants to play 5 hours anymore. If I can go an hour and a half or 2 hours, have fun, have a few cocktails, a few laughs with my friends. Hey, we played a little golf. That's what I think. That's great. I think it's fantastic. So the game's in a good spot. The professional game is not necessarily in a good spot, but I do think, guys, with the announcement that Tiger is going to be doing the negotiating between the two entities and Rory will be an advisor, which I thought was kind of funny. I think we're going to come to some conclusion with that this summer. And so we need the professional game fixed, and we need all the guys playing together for the big tournaments. And listen, guys, wait until the fall during football season when Tiger has that indoor deal on Golf Channel. I think it'll be Monday and Wednesday night, something like that, where you're really hitting into a simulator, and there'll be 50 yards of grass outside so they can do some chip shots and stuff. I'm anxious to see how that does, because they're going for a young demographic, and that's the key. We got to go younger to keep the game growing, and you guys know that. Listen, I'm an older guy, but I don't know. I still like to have a little bit of fun too.
We could keep going, but I do have two more questions for you. The first, you mentioned the LIV and the negotiations. What do you see that maybe looking like? Should they finally come to an agreement, and what would that maybe look like?
Well, negotiations have been going on for months now, guys. And I think we're in the final stages. And obviously Tiger and his business empire and Rory and his business empire are now heavily involved. And they want to see everybody come together. And it's just a matter of, listen, some people are going to get their feelings hurt. Some guys who didn't leave for LIV are going to wait a minute. These guys are going to be allowed back in some capacity. Yeah, that's what's going to happen. And ultimately, I would say 10 to 12 times a year now, everybody will be playing certain tournaments. Under what umbrella, I don't know. It'll obviously be a PGA Tour event, and LIV wants to keep this crazy team competition going. They think that's viable. But I think, guys, late into the summer, with Tiger doing the negotiating and his team, Mark Steinberg and his attorneys, et cetera, and Rory, we're talking Rory's a global guy, right? I mean, he has business stakes in the UK, which is important. And I think it'll all come together. There'll be some ruffled feathers from some players who are going to be mad that the LIV guys are going to be allowed to come back in some way. But it'll all work out, and everybody's going to get rich. And listen, Tiger got $100 million, the equity plan. Rory got $50 million. That's the initial payout. Thus, the reason they're going to lead the negotiations, right? So yeah, it's been kind of a crazy time, and I think LIV is kind of like, hey, listen, we're fine with where we are. We'd love to work with you, and I think finally everybody's going to start working together. And there will be a PGA Tour, there'll be a LIV Tour, but I think there'll be some collaboration where the guys will play X number of tournaments under some other label, and that's what we're ultimately going to see, and that'll be good. Because we need to see the LIV guys play more than 4 times a year.
And my last question, we ask everyone that comes on the podcast. So the name of the podcast is obviously Mulligans and Milkshakes, and allude to the tradition with Alabama golf and milkshakes. So we have to ask, do you have a favorite milkshake?
Yes. And if you go to a Jack's tournament, by the way, have you guys ever been in Muirfield? You go into the clubhouse there, and behind the bar, they have all the milkshakes set up, and the players love it. And you can get butterscotch and all this craziness. Have you ever had an Oreo milkshake where the remnants of the Oreo cookie are like floating around or whatever? Guys, I love it. I love it. I love it. And don't get me started on chocolate and milkshakes. And I do it all day. Sometimes you got to say stop. Just stop. That's what I'm going to do with the milkshakes.
Sounds like that question hit close to home. So
yes, it did.
We really appreciate you joining us. It should be a great week at Valhalla, and can definitely have you on in the future. We really appreciate it, Doug.
Hey, thanks, guys. Roll Tide to all you guys.
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide. Again, we just want to thank Doug for taking the time out of his day to come and talk to us. I know that he's getting down to Valhalla and Kentucky to I think he said tomorrow, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
we're recording this on Monday. He's heading over there tomorrow, which is Tuesday, and we discussed it there. It should be a phenomenal tournament. Really excited for the PGA Championship, and we'll get into that in a minute after the Wells and the regions and all that. But yeah, really appreciate him coming on. He's phenomenal.
Well, let's jump into it. Well, actually, before we mention that, I just want to say we're not going to be touching really much on the men's regional tournament, just because as we're recording right now, they're playing. They're tied for third at 5 under, 8 through 12 on their first round. So they're playing 36 holes today. Today being Monday the 13th, and then I think that they'll try to finish up either tomorrow or Wednesday, depending on how the inclement weather comes through. But since they're not done, we're really not going to touch on that very much. I think the women's tournament finished 10th in their regional, so they're done for the season. But let's get into some professional golf. Charles, you were fortunate enough to spend all week in Birmingham and at Greystone covering the regions championship for the PGA. Is it the PGA Senior? What are they? Champions?
PGA
The Champions Tour. Yeah.
How was that? Give us a few stories that you may have from doing that all week.
And it was try to take the fandom out of it and be professional, but really just as someone who, likes sports and just has an opportunity to be inside the ropes, and the first day out there being the pro-am with, Coach Saban, Coach DeBoer, Hugh Freeze, former Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice, and then the big name golfers, of course, like Ernie Els, Steve Stricker, Stuart Sink, John Daly. It was just a phenomenal opportunity to be out there. And we, at the podcast, we're really appreciative of the opportunity to be out there and cover it. I guess if I start with Wednesday with the Pro-Am, I did just want to kind of talk about Coach DeBoer a little bit. Hasn't played a ton of golf, as you can probably tell, which is, I think, as Doug said, is a good thing. But I felt like the mechanics are there for him to be a good golfer at some point, and probably just needs to get set up with the appropriate former Alabama golfer, just like Coach Saban did. But what really kind of came across to me is just how genuine of a guy Coach DeBoer is. At the end of the day, he's going to have to win games, and I think he understands that. But the amount of autographs that he signed, the amount of pictures that he took, I don't think he did that just because of the idea of I've got to, fill these big shoes and win people over. I personally just kind of think that's the guy he is. So it was really cool just to watch him interact with the Alabama fan base for my first time seeing it in person with him. Got to give a lot of credit to Ellis Ponder and Cedric. They probably ran a marathon on Wednesday, going back and forth between Coach DeBoer and Coach Saban, and to the fans, the gallery, just ushering autograph items back and forth. But it was a really cool just to watch them play and who they were playing with. I think everybody had some good shots, and everybody had some shots of, yeah, golf's not your day job, but just a really cool opportunity to do that. And then just getting into the week, I've made it a point that I really wanted to follow Dickie Pride around, being a former Alabama golfer, being, born in Tuscaloosa. And so on Saturday, I followed him for all 18 holes, and he was phenomenal to me. His caddy was phenomenal to me as well. One of the things I did find interesting with all these guys is just how smooth their swings are. They're not trying to kill the ball. It's all about tempo. And like a quarterback, on the sidelines warming up before they go in, all these guys are constantly, they'll hit a shot and they continue to work on their hip movement on the side and things like that. And the other thing that stuck out with just these guys on the Champions Tour is the camaraderie that they have. They're all just out there. They're playing because, of course, they love the game. Yes, it's competitive. But they all just, I think, are there because they love golf, and it's a great opportunity to showcase their skills. But getting back to Dickie Pride, man, he played phenomenal on Saturday. And what his caddy told me is his ball striking had been great all week, but he was on his third putter of the weekend. And of course, that was his third round that I was following him. He came into the 18th hole at 5 under, hit a great tee shot, but there actually was some mud on the ball. And standing there, it was a really interesting discussion between him and his caddy of just how the golf ball would fly. Of course, for me, I get up there, there's mud on the ball. I'm just still, trying to get it to the green. But just listening to them of what's going to happen with this golf ball, and then just deciding that they wanted to lay up, still with that mud, it pushed the golf ball into the water. It just became a very difficult hole, and you could see the mental game kind of wane at that point. He finished with a triple bogey, but was still 2 under for his round for that third round. I think he had another 2 under round on Sunday to finish 4 under for the tournament, but just really appreciated the opportunity to follow him. And then Stuart Sink, too, was another guy that I wanted to follow, being from the state of Alabama. Had a phenomenal weekend, finished at 14 under. The winner was Doug Barron at 17 under, his first major tournament championship on the Champions Tour. But just, first class all the way around. I wish the state of Alabama could get more golf tournaments. I know the Korn Ferry or maybe the PGA had a tournament for Barbasol down in Opelika, Auburn back in the day. But just a great opportunity to showcase golf within the state, and just another phenomenal event out there.
You had a lot of great content. My favorite piece of content was Big Al's favorite milkshake.
Yeah, that was really cool. And of course, I shared that with Harvey and Wilson. They said, okay, well, we want you to make that for us now. So I got to learn how to make the peanut butter and chocolate milkshakes going forward.
There you go. We did not find out what John Daly's was
We
it?
didn't. I got very close, but you had to get ushered away to go to the Feinbaum show. I did think it was interesting. I did get the question into Coach DeBoer, and he wasn't sure of what his milkshake was, because from South Dakota, I think he's a snow cone guy. That's just my personal opinion. We'll let him come on at some point if he wants to and clear that up. But the other one that we did get was Dickie Prize, and he was a vanilla milkshake with some coffee in there as well. He was very familiar with the Alabama tradition, and I think very excited to answer that question.
Look, and then we got Doug Bell on, and I mean, he gave us a Oreo milkshake with a little bit of Oreo crumbs in it. So I think we're starting a movement here for the milkshake movement, I guess is what we'll call it. Just a quick update on the NCAAs. Alabama's in solo third. Cannon Claycomb is going nuclear. He went 5 under on the front 9. So
the Hippo, baby, friend of the program.
Friend of the
program. He said strawberry, by the way. Cannon said strawberry.
Strawberry. We're just building an empire of milkshakes over here, which I don't even know that we've given our favorite milkshakes. So should we do that real quick?
Probably.
Christian, let's hear, what's your favorite milkshake?
It depends on the day, but for the most part, I go with Oreo cookies and cream milkshake is my favorite.
Charles?
So I feel like I'm a chocolate milkshake, but I make it with vanilla ice cream and then just put a lot of chocolate syrup in there. So am I a vanilla milkshake with chocolate syrup, or am I a chocolate milkshake?
Well, if you were going to say Cold Stone, or what kind of milkshake are you getting?
Chocolate milkshake.
There you go. There's your answer.
Yeah.
So for those who don't know, I'm a very picky eater. We've discussed this before, hence the pimento cheese punishment. But I don't like chocolate. I don't like peanut butter. I don't like a lot of the things that people love. I'm a birthday cake guy. Birthday cake is my favorite milkshake. If they don't have that, I'm just going plain old vanilla. But yeah, a little bit about me.
So the Regions wasn't the only tournament that one of us was at this week. Christian, you want to talk about your time at the Wells Fargo?
If you can't tell, I got a little sun-kissed by
hey, sunburns turn into tans.
Yeah, exactly. I got to go to the Wells Fargo Saturday, Sunday. My company has like a pavilion on the 15th green, which if you guys follow us on social media, you'll see the Rory hole out from the bunker for an eagle to lead by 6 on Sunday. But Saturday I made a point. One, because Nick Dunlap's kind of a rookie on the tour, and Obviously won the Amex, and I made it a point to at least follow his first 9 on Saturday. So Wynn did that, and then Sam decided that she was hungry, so we went and ate. But Sunday, I decided, hey, I'm gonna follow him through the full 18. I think it would be the reason why I did that is because he was in the middle of the pack as far as the leaderboard is concerned, and so the crowds weren't bad. You can get up close, and ended up finding his parents. Just we were walking, and I was like, oh, I was like, are you Nick's mom? Char Dunlap is she is Charlene, but she likes to go by Char. So found them, and I walked with them on the all 18 and talked with them and talked with Hunter's girlfriend, and what a great family. They his dad, so it's funny because his dad, when you see a golfer, right, and they get frustrated, his dad's the same exact way for Nick. He's like, man, I can't believe he just left that 15 feet short. Man, I can't, like, there was one hole, I think it was like 8, I believe, where I think it was it's a drivable par 4, and he puts it to the left side of the green. And it's an easy chip for a birdie, and Nick duffs the birdie or the eagle chip and it's like 15, 20 feet short. Then misses the birdie putt, and then misses a 2 or like a 3-footer for par, and ends up bogeying the hole. And his dad was so mad. And it was just so funny to see, because like you don't really see like that side where like the families and the people watching are also just as pissed off as the golfer is. But he ended up finishing top 25, which I think they said that was his goal coming into the tournament, was top 20, top 25. It really feels like his dad made a good point. He said Nick was 9 over on holes 16 through 18 the entire tournament. And for the rest of because he finished 1 over, for the rest of the tournament, he was 8 under. So if he could have just figured out 16 through 18, he probably would have been top 5, top 10, which is what they're kind of looking for in order to move into the top 50 in the world golf rankings to get to the British Open. So they actually drove from Charlotte to Kentucky last night after Nick's tournament.
And you didn't join them?
No, they asked me if I was going. I said I wasn't going. Funny story about that. So Nick was out, I forget what tournament was out in Texas. I don't know. Did he play the Valhalla?
Byron Nelson.
He was out in Texas and got stuck in Texas because of flights kept getting canceled. I assume because of bad weather. And at that point, Nick said that he's just going to drive everywhere. So they have a caravan of 3 cars. So it's Hunter and Kinsey. Kinsey's Hunter's girlfriend, Nick's parents, and then Nick have 3 cars that they've just been driving around to all of the tournament sites, because they said that they don't want to be stuck as far as like airplanes are concerned and all of that.
Maybe that was Houston then, because
yeah, it was in Houston is what they said.
Okay, so yeah, it would be the Texas Children's, which was 2 weeks before the Masters. So yeah, it's just like he's in college with the Sprinter van again, I guess.
Yeah. It also
sounds like you need to talk to Nick Saban and get a Mercedes sponsorship.
They also
just like Ricky Fowler put it on the sleeve.
Yeah. They also said that the reason why he likes to drive everywhere is because Nick's a big fisher. They said he might like fishing more than he likes golfing. And so he can go and fish and bring his fishing gear with him to the tournaments. And so I think he posted a photo on social media where he caught a gigantic bass before his round on Thursday. And
some great fishing in Charlotte.
Yeah. And I tried to tell them that. And I told them next year when they come to the Wells Fargo, I said, let me know. I'll give you food recommendations. I'll tell you where to go fish. Like,
you have a guest room. They can stay.
Yeah. But it was just so interesting that, well, one, that they allowed me to kind of just walk, and it didn't like, it wasn't like I was sitting there interviewing them or anything like that. Like, it was just how you would go, if you're watching a tournament with your friends or something, and just having conversations and how into it that they got. And it was I'm very thankful for both Jim and Shar, and then obviously Kinsey for allowing me to kind of tag along with them. But um me and Jim and we were reading Nick's putts on the greens. We're like, oh, this is gonna break this way, and like, oh, it's gonna do this. And one hole, we're like, oh, it's gonna break right, like, and Nick left it short and on the low side, and Jim goes, I could read that putt. Why couldn't he read that putt? So
we're one step closer to getting them onto the pod, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
We're in with the parents. Now we just got to get in with Nick.
Well, they told me to send him some of the video because I have that hole out video that he had on 4 on Saturday, and they're like, "Oh, Nick definitely would want that." So I need to send that to his mom just so that they have it. But yeah, maybe one step closer. I didn't want to really push the envelope as far as trying to get him on the podcast or anything. I just enjoyed their time, just being able to talk with them.
Of course, and although he finished 1 over, it was his best finish at a major or signature event this year, because he finished, unfortunately, last at the RBC and then didn't make the cut at the Masters. So, and then the Players, he didn't make the cut either. But yeah, tied for 24th. So is Lee Hodges, another Alabama golfer. $165,000 is not a bad week in my book. But yeah, I mean, we talked about it with Doug. He just needs that experience of playing these courses, and we've talked about that. We kind of guess that's what it was, but Doug talked a little bit about his caddy and kind of that mentality. And something I didn't really think about is the adjustment for the caddy from not playing these courses or walking these courses to playing them for your job and walking them and trying to help. And Doug gave us a little insight about that because he was with Jason Day's former caddy all weekend. But yeah, it looks like he's trending in the right direction. And Justin Thomas finished 21st even. But yeah, decent week for the Alabama golfers, at least their wallets.
Well, and it's funny that you say that real fast. Because I talked with Kinsey, again, Hunter's girlfriend, because it's not just been a whirlwind for Nick, it's been a whirlwind for them too. They live just outside of Montgomery, and I think they said Pike Road, and they have like a farm that they live on. And they had just gotten a puppy in November, so this past November, and they couldn't find anyone to watch their puppy. So like she couldn't go to the tournaments with them because she had to watch the puppy. Now they have her at a trainer. This is like the stuff that we were talking about. This is pretty funny, but like it's been a whirlwind for all of them. And the thing that Nick's parents told me is that they're really using this year as a learning year. And that's the mentality that they have. And that's the mentality Nick has is I'm trying to learn these courses. I'm trying to get comfortable with them. And then next year is the year that we're going to go after it. Now, if he wins one this year, that's not saying that he wasn't trying to win one, but the goal for him is to get comfortable because kind of like Doug said, like Nick's one of the best golfers in the world, but the gap between him and Scotty Scheffler or him and Rory is large. It is very large.
Listen, the great Brian Scalabrine quote. He was the white mamba, as they called him, played for the Celtics forever. Someone was talking smack to him, and he said, "I'm closer to LeBron James than you will ever be to me." And it's a true quote. I mean, these guys are absurd, and we see what Scotty's do. Like Doug said, Scotty's won his last 2 starts. So is Rory, the number 1, number 2. And the gap between, I mean, just look at this week. Nick finished tied for 24th at 1 over. Rory won the thing at 17 under. So the disparity, even between the professionals, is crazy. But it does feel like Nick is starting to trend in the right direction.
I'd just say too, the other PGA event, while I scoreboard watched, I guess, for Davis and Robbie. Davis had a great start on Sunday, and I think it kind of fell apart on him a little bit, but Robbie finished tied for 26th. which I think is a really good result for him as he continues to, try to get into these signature events, hold on to his tour card for next season too. But just like Christian was saying, I think from an Alabama golf perspective, I mean, you had the three guys in the Wells Fargo. They didn't get in the top 20, but they were all right there. You had a good week from Robbie Shelton. I talked about Dickie Pride playing pretty well in the regions. All these guys seem to be trending in the right direction, that hopefully it's going to be continue to be a fun season for all of them. And maybe we get some more Alabama wins here in the next couple of weeks in all these different tournaments.
Yeah, it was Robbie's. I was going to mention that as well. It was Robbie's second best finish of the season. He finished 25th at the Farmers and tied for 26, 10 under, 3 under on Sunday. It looked like he had a solid round, and kind of like you, I was more so scoreboard watching. I was watching the Wells Fargo, but yeah, good week for Alabama, and hopefully they can keep it going with Justin Thomas's home course.
Well, and so with the way the FedEx Cup works, they just need to finish like top 150. Is that right, to keep their tour status?
I believe so.
It's either top 150 or top 120. I can't remember which one it is. So hopefully Robbie can do that and maintain that. And I know Davis, I think he has exemptions for the next 2 years.
Yeah, because he won the Zurich.
Yeah. So, and Davis, I think, should be easily qualifying because he usually finishes like top 20, top 15 for most events. So let's move on to this week a little bit. So for the PGA Tour, and I'm again, thank you to John Graham of Alabama Pro Updates. He puts this together for me, so he sent this to me last night. For the PGA Tour, we have Lee Hodges, Nick Dunlap, Justin Thomas for the PGA Championship. This will be unless Davis or Robbie or one of these guys goes out and wins. Those three are going to be in the signature / major events every time this year, unless Nick doesn't qualify for the British, which I think that they think that he's going to, but
yeah, I think he should. He's got a month left or 2 months left to qualify. I think he'll, like we said, if he's starting to make that turn, I think he'll eventually qualify over the next 2 months.
Yeah. And then for the Corn Ferry, we have Frankie Capon. I think that's how you say his name. Again, pronunciation, if you listen to this podcast, is terrible with me. So Trey Mullinax, Davis Shore playing in the Corn Ferry Advent Health Championship. There's no PGA Tour Americas because Shore is playing in the Corn Ferry. Emerald Coast Tour, there's no one in that one. LPGA, you have Kristen Gilman, Juan Gian, Polly Max, Stephanie Meadow, Emma Talley, and then I think he put Polly Mack again. Fifth alternate is what he's saying. And then the Epson Tour, you have Luca Reber, Abe, Angelica Maresco, Benedita Maresco, Lauren Stevenson, and Kinsey Wright for the Epson Tour this week. So keeping a close eye on obviously the PGA Championship as it is a major, but the Corn Ferry Tour events as well as the ladies events.
So the LPGA,
I was about to say,
yeah, she didn't win this week, and so Matthew, if you were watching some of the stuff on Golf Central, I mean, I was kind of taken aback with how they were describing her, like it was this huge disappointment that she didn't win. And I know they're trying to grow the game, but
she was tied for 7th.
Well, the winner was Rose Zong, who should still be playing college golf at Stanford, which would have meant, so Alabama was in the regional with Stanford. They won that regional out in Washington. The top 4 finishing golfers were all in the Stanford golf team. They've just got a powerhouse as it is. But Rose now, wins this one. I think it's at least her second win on the LPGA Tour. You got something here with Rose and Nelly Korda. Hopefully over the next several years, getting to watch them battle it out on the LPGA and some of these events, that's really going to grow that side of the game as well, and that tour. And I think that's going to be fun to watch with both of them, that it's not just Nelly Korda taking control of all these tournaments. And there's other good women's players as well. I think of Charlie Hall. I think of Oh gosh. Now they're all escaping me. But just to say, now I'm all for the Nelly Korda Rose Zong competitions over the next couple of years.
Yeah, you said it there. I was about to say, for those who didn't see it, the leaderboard this week at the Cognizant, the LPGA tournament, was absurd. Rose Zhang won it at 24 under. Madeline Sagstrom was behind her at 22 under. And then third place was 9 under. She was 15 strokes clear of third place. It was just insane to I was flipping through it a little bit because I saw the leaderboard going into Sunday, and the discrepancy is just it was just insane to see. But I wanted to mention, I'm glad you did, because like you said, Rosang and Nelly Korda. Nelly Korda was just at the Met Gala, and she's doing stuff outside of golf as well that can start to grow the LPGA. We've seen the WNBA and women's college basketball grow, and I think the LPGA is starting to capitalize on that a little bit as well with Nelly Korda at the forefront.
Well, and you were talking about people being frustrated, or maybe not frustrated, but going after Korda. But like Rose Zong is one of those stories at the beginning of the year during the LPGA when she decided to turn pro, that the golf world was enamored by her. And we're saying, oh, she's the next Tiger Woods for the LPGA, like all of these things. And now she's won 2 events, but maybe the expectations were high. And comparing yourself to Tiger Woods, that's a tough ask for anyone. But like that story in and of itself is just as good as Korda winning her 6th in a row or whatever. Like you don't want in the game of golf, you don't want a guy or girl to go out and just have the expectation that you're going to win every single tournament. You see it a little bit with F1 with Max Verstappen, where like it's no longer like enthralling, or it's no longer exciting for people to go and see. Like people are cheering not necessarily for Max to crash or something, but for something that I'm being serious, for something to happen to the Red Bull where the rest of the field can actually catch up to him. And so you want to see parity is basically what I'm trying to say. And so Rose
Lando just won.
Hey, yeah, well, my boy Lando, I love him, but you want to see parity in the game. And so Rose winning, it's a great story, and it's good for the game of golf as a whole. Just like Rory winning, which Rory has won 26 times now, but like it's apples to oranges. But you don't want to see Scotty Scheffler go out and win every single tournament. While it's fun, like it doesn't grow the game. So speaking of Scotty Scheffler, speaking of Rory McIlroy,
we're off Meredith Watch.
We're off Meredith Watch. Doug Bell finally confirms that we are in fact off Meredith Watch. So let's go to the PGA Championship. Like we said, this is Justin Thomas's kind of homecoming to Kentucky. Rory's last major win, was at Valhalla. I think it was in like 10 years ago.
2014. Yeah, exactly 10 years ago. And fun fact for you, when he won it in 2014, he went in having won his last 2 tournaments. At that point, it was in August before they moved it up to May. So it's happened before. He was 16 under that year and beat Phil Mickelson by 1 stroke. So Phil obviously has had success here. Tiger's won the 2000 PGA Championship. Obviously, that was forever ago, but Doug talked about it. He's been there. I think Tiger's been there since like Thursday or Friday. So by the time Thursday rolls around, he'll have been there for a week. And so maybe Tiger can make for him it's more so just making cuts and trying to play into the weekend, but yeah, I mean, I'm kind of going on a tangent, but I'm excited. Should be a great tournament. I think Rory might be able to contend and hopefully get back on a major throne for the first time in a decade, which is crazy we're saying that.
Charles, what are your thoughts on the PGA?
You talked about Michael Block, earlier, and not thinking that he's going to have a lot of success this week, but just, that was a great story, and he will be somebody that just want to kind of keep up with. But any of those other PGA professionals that are also in the event, with Scotty coming back, it's going to be Scotty, it's going to be Rory, it's going to be some of these other big names that are always talked about in these events. But I'll go ahead and say this for my fantasy team. I'm actually looking a little bit farther down, just because it feels like we could have a surprise this week. Somebody that's probably having some good results throughout the year, but they're just not getting the name recognition. So my team is not going to be stacked with all of that. I will definitely have some good golfers on there. Not good golfers. I mean, they're all good golfers, of course. Some higher profile name golfers on my team. But I think it's just going to be, another phenomenal week of golf, and there's going to be the Rory Scotty comparisons. As we talked about, there's going to be the live conversation of those guys playing too. And of course, I think most important maybe for us on this podcast is, what's the homecoming like for Justin Thomas? Can he break through and have win another major, which would be his third PGA championship major? But obviously, being in Kentucky, what did the outside factors of being in his home state, how does that kind of propel him, and is he able to come out and get another major on his resume this week?
And from another Alabama golfer's standpoint, I was talking to Nick's family or parents about whether or not Nick's actually played Valhalla, and they said that they weren't sure. They weren't sure because like Cannon might have taken him out to play a round at Valhalla when because obviously Cannon's from Kentucky, but they weren't entirely sure whether or not he's played the course at all. They did say that he has had some struggles with his driver. And as Doug Bell said, this is a bomber's type of course where if you can hit the long ball, you can probably score pretty well. And they said that it felt like he kind of started figuring it out yesterday with his driver. On Saturday, he only hit 4 fairways, and I think he hit more than quite a bit more than that on Sunday. So it might be a situation where Nick maybe gets a little bit comfortable because he can just go out, just bomb the driver and, get a short game going. And I think if he figures out his putting, which is his best part of his game, then it might be a situation where Nick can maybe finish top 15, top 20, and get those necessary, world golf ranking points to kind of qualify for the British Open. So it's definitely something I'm going to be looking at as far as going into the weekend. But let's see. Do we want to go directly into fantasy picks or I think
if you guys are ready, I'm ready when you guys are. You want to go for it?
Let's do it.
So let's recap last week first. So I had the first pick. Had an okay week. If Justin Thomas could have finished one stroke better, I would have been a lot better. But I finished with 30 points. Xander Schauffele, who is the 18, 36, and 54 hole leader, finished in second. Colin Morikawa finished in 16th, giving me 30. Christian, same thing. If Nick Dunlap was 2 strokes better, he would have been in the green. Same with Charles for Lee Hodges. But Christian got Max home in the top 10. He had to get a alternate in Sahith Theegala to replace Ludwig Oberg. But Jason Day finished 4th, which was good for him, which after I recap this, I have one question before we do the draft. And then Charles, he won the week, 30 points because of the signature event for Rory winning it. And then he also had another 10 for Tommy Fleetwood winning it. So he got 40 points. They both cut into my lead at the top. I'm still at the top. I now have 170 points, 40 clear of Christian, who's in 130. And Charles is still in the pimento cheese tier with 95 points, yet to break 100, but I think we'll get there this week. Real quick, before we do the draft, Jason Day's outfits, what do we think? I mean, they're toned down since the Masters, but it looked like he was I don't know what it was. Was it Saturday? All the linen and in the age of moisture wicking and all this athletic material, where I'm wearing my J&J, it's the same thing. He's wearing linen, and I just wanted your guys' thoughts on that. I was texting about it in the group chat.
He looks like he's in like a Marlboro commercial, like one of those the old like cigarette commercials that you used to see where
He needs a fedora.
yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because it doesn't seem like he's really getting any sponsorships with that. Like I remember when Phil was starting to go to the button-up long sleeve shirts. I mean, he was obviously getting money with that from the sponsorship. Look, if he's comfortable in it and that's what makes him feel good, because I think that's what, when you're out there playing golf, you want to feel good. I think that's one thing too, going back to the regions and just watching some of those caddies talk with the golfer they're with, just the comments of as these golfers are describing shots, it's, I love it. I love it. I love it. Just that being in that right mindset. And if your clothes are part of that too, if that's what Jason Day needs to be in that right mindset, may look odd to us, may look uncomfortable to us, but of course, like it led to him finishing 4th this week. So we'll see if somebody comes along and sponsors him pretty soon with that type of outfit.
So a little context. So the outfits are the sponsor. So it's
Okay.
Malbon, which is kind of like a new age brand, and they do like out there kind of designer stuff. So all of that is Malbon, and it's what they're giving him. But he has also random as can be. He has a DeWalt sponsor on his hat, which it doesn't make sense with all that, but hey, money is money.
Could you hook him up with the Travis Matthews sponsorship since
I know
get your package?
Travis Matthew hooked me up. J&J hooked me up this week, and I've got the Alabama golf hat right here too. So shout out to J&J. Shout out to my friends at Travis Matthew as well. Obviously, given the name, that one makes sense. But yeah, maybe we do have to get him a little hooked up. John Rahm used to wear Travis Matthew, and a lot of tour players. So I think Robbie might wear Travis. I think he's FootJoy, but a lot of golfers do. But getting back to the fantasy draft, so for the viewers, this week we're adding an alternate, and we're gonna do that each week. It'll pretty much just be like a 6 rounds. So whoever has the last pick. So in this case, it's me. I have the 5-3. I'll get the first alternate, and then we'll just pick an alternate round. The only time those will come into play is if one of our golfers withdraws or anything of that nature. They'll just be plugged in place because we've had a couple difficulties with that. Charles and I both for the Byron Nelson, and then this week Christian for the Wells Fargo with Ludwig. So housekeeping, and it is a major, so plus 10 for everything. Everything is worth 10 more. The Alabama golfers, it is doubled and then 10 points added on, not doubled with the 10 points. It doesn't become 20. So there are cuts. So this week, Christian has the first pick for the Alabama round. Charles has the second pick. I have the third pick and the first pick for the non-Alabama round. So Christian, you are on the clock.
I'm gonna go Justin Thomas.
Shocker.
I know.
Absolute shocker.
I know. I want to go Nick, but I can't go. Justin Thomas has played Valhalla. He, knows the course. It's his home course. And if that comes back to bite me, then it comes back to bite me. But I got to go JT.
I would really like to go Nick, and I've gone Nick a lot of times in the past, but I'm going Lee Hodges because the best 2 weeks that I've had as far as fantasy, Lee Hodges has been leading the team. So
vibes.
Don't fix it. Yeah, good vibes only. I'm going Lee Hodges.
That's right. And so that leaves me with Nick, but I'm going to go a shocker here. I'm not going to go Scotty Scheffler. I'm going to go the guy who just won and the guy who won the last time we were here. I'm going to go with Rory. And will that bite me? Maybe, because we're off Meredith watch, but I love the way Rory's been playing. It's no secret I'm a big Rory fan. I think he can get his first major in 10 years at the same course he won his last one.
If Doug had not been so down on him, I probably would have taken Jon Rahm right here over Scotty because of what's been going off the course with Scotty. But because Doug was so down on John Rahm, I will go ahead and lock in Scotty Scheffler.
That's the right pick.
I don't blame you for that. I've got to go defending champion Brooks Koepka. It is major tournament time, which means it's Brooks time. He just seems to show up whenever it's majors come into play, and PGA is no exception. So it's a bomber's course, and I got to go Brooks Koepka with my first pick. My second pick, let's see. I'm torn between Max Homa and Xander Schauffele. Xander, the only thing I have an issue with Xander is on Sundays he tends to fall apart.
Saw that this week.
And he still finished, I think, even or one over, but like he always seems to play really well the first 3 rounds, and the last round it just never comes together. Max, I just like Max, honestly. I like Max Homa, but you know,
flip a coin. You want me to flip a coin for you?
Well, no, because now I'm thinking of John Rahm, but now I don't want 2 live golfers. So
Team Live, come on.
No, I don't like live. That's the issue. You know what? Let me get
This is like
it's
surgery. This is a tough decision.
It is, because like I this is like one of those decisions that can decide whether or not I'm gonna win the thing or not, because like
this could be the difference between a pimento cheese sandwich and a milkshake.
It could. You know what? Let's go Xander. Let's go Xander.
I was hoping he would fall to me, but he did not.
I'm going Victor Hovland.
That was another one on my mind.
No explanation, just Victor. I love it.
It's just good vibes only.
There you go. I was hoping Xander was going to fall to me. Obviously, he did not. I am going to go with the live guy. Doug talked about it being a bomber's course, and no one bombs it further than Bryson DeChambeau. He was the 1836 hole leader at 1836 hole leader at Augusta. He's been playing decent when he's on the PGA Tour. So I'm gonna go Bryson. It fits his game. And then I don't want, kind of like Christian, I don't want to go with another live guy, so I'll let Charles take John Rahm if he wants him. I like Ludwig. I like more.
Yeah, see, it's tough.
I know it is. I think I'm gonna go Ludwig. Yeah, I'll go Ludwig.
So I had a plan, and John Rahm was part of that plan for the first one. But as I said, I have a plan, and now I have passed on John Rahm. I'm going to stick to that plan, and I'm going with Sepp Straka.
Oh, he's been on your team for both majors now.
Yeah, and he got me points for the Masters, and I think Sepp has been playing very, very well. He's had some good finishes. Look, for me, it's about guys who can make the cut, and I think Sepp's playing well enough that he's a guy who should make the cut.
Look, if you're gonna give me John Rahm, then I'm gonna take John Rahm. Like, there's like, if he's there the 3rd round, I'm taking him. Like,
look, I'm now totally prepared for Nick Dunlap and John Rahm to be in a playoff to win this week.
I would literally be,
I'm here for it.
I'd be begging for John Rahm not to win, even though he's on my team. Well, and I was debating between, Xander and Max Homa, and fortunately, not only did Max Homa fall to me, but John Rahm's fallen to me. So I'm taking Max Homa with my next pick.
There you go.
Teams coming together.
Yeah, I like your squad.
So I'm going deep on this one, and we'll probably get some looks from y'all. But I am
Phil
going
Mickelson?
Lucas Glover.
Lucas Glover.
Doesn't have a ton of top 20s this year. Obviously played very, very well towards the end of last year. I think he finished maybe top 16 this week at the Wells Fargo. I think he was also within the top 20 at the Masters. But another guy who just consistently is making cuts right now, just something speaking to me of he's a guy that could surprise and be on the leaderboard in the top 10 once Sunday rolls around. So I'm going to have Lucas Glover on my team.
Out of the box, but if it works, it works. So I was between Ludwig
it worked
and
for JT Poston at the RBC.
It did. The postman almost won it. But I was between Ludwig and Colin in my last pick, kind of like Christian. Max Homa fell to him. Colin fell to me. So going Colin in the final round, and then alternate round. So on the come around, I'll go Tommy Fleetwood as my alternate.
Yeah, you love the Fleet man, huh?
Hey, well, he hasn't really played well for me, but it's a big name near the top, and if I can get a guy whose odds are in the top 10, top 15, I'll take him.
My team's name will be Team Newborn because my alternate's going to be Sam Burns.
There you go.
Well, I'm surprised. Well, one, there's two people I'm surprised you guys didn't pick. Dustin Johnson, the traditional bomber, right? Like that's the OG. Well, technically OG bombers, Tiger Woods.
Does he even like golf anymore?
I don't know. And then my other one's Jason Day, who just finished tied for fourth.
That's fair.
Who we just talked about. So as my alternate, I'm going to pick Jason Day.
There you go. I like. So just to be clear, the alternates only come into play if someone withdraws. Do we want to do even if say like Max Homa withdraws on Friday, something like he got injured or something, your alternate comes into play?
You know what would be interesting that I was thinking of? What if we did it like college golf is scored, where they're dropping
top 5?
They're dropping one round.
What are your thoughts, Charles?
I like that.
Okay, I was thinking about that as well. I'm with it.
And so that way, if somebody does drop, you're obviously locked in to your 5 that are still playing. But
yes.
I'm good with that as far as, we got 6 and we're taking the 5 best scores.
So if that's the case, in the future, say someone does drop out before the tournament begins, do you have your 5 and you don't get an alternate? Okay, I like it. Okay, I just wanted to make sure before.
Yes.
Now, if it's a situation where 2 of yours drop, then you can go pick up another guy. But you draft 6 for 5, and if 1 drops, then you only get the 5.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to make sure we had our bases covered before we run into that situation. So the alternate round essentially is now just a 6th round. It's not an alternate. Okay,
and I know
perfect.
And I apologize that we're changing this so much, but I feel like this would be a little bit more fun to.
Yeah, no, I was thinking about that as well, and the alternate round I think was needed because it doesn't make sense to, like last week we did the podcast and then an hour after we finished the podcast, Ludwig withdrew, so it just makes more sense to have that already in store and not having to do it texting and changing graphics and whatever it might be. So perfect. So just recapping the teams, Christian with his first overall pick went with the obvious pick, the homeboy Justin Thomas. Brooks Koepka, Xander Schauffele, John Rahm, Max Homa, and his new 6th round went to Jason Day. Charles went with Lee Hodges, got the newfound father who will be celebrating Father's Day in a month, Scotty Scheffler. Victor Hovland, Sepp Straka, Lucas Glover, and Sam Burns, another new father. And I was left with Nick Dunlap. Love Nick. I think he's turning the corner. I went with Rory over Scotty. I love how Rory's been playing, and he's won here. It just felt like the right choice. Bryson DeChambeau, Bomber, Ludwig Oberg, Colin Morikawa, and Tommy Fleetwood. I think these are 3 solid teams. I think if I were a betting man, I would bet on Christian or myself probably winning the poll vote, but just because Sepp Straka and Lucas Glover aren't names that people typically see up there. But yeah, I think it'll be. I think we have a great week, and like I said, plus 10. It's a major. There are cuts, so should be interesting, especially with the live guys.
So just so for clarity for people, since we decided that the 6th round is going to be an actual round, I will suggest this. If you guys want to change your pick to someone that you think might score better, then I think that would be okay.
I probably would have taken Jason Day, to be honest with you, but I'll stick with Tommy Fleetwood.
Okay, I just want to put that option out there because we kind of used it as like an alternate, instead of a 6th round.
Joaquin Neiman was kind of speaking to me, but I didn't want to go with another live guy.
Charles, are you all good on yours?
I'm good. I don't disagree with what you said as far as some of the guys that I have are not typical names that we see, but look, I got to do something right now to make up the gap, so might as well go deep down, even though I'm not getting additional points for it. Need to change up the strategy a little bit.
Hey, Sep worked for you in Augusta.
Sep worked for me in Augusta. Lee Hodges has obviously been working for me, even if he's not getting me a ton of. I don't know if he's gotten me any points yet, but at least him being at the top, is working out for the team. So
I'm surprised you didn't go the postman.
Poston, just since he had played well at the RBC Heritage, that was definitely why he was speaking to me. And Glover is, a major champion, and like I said, I'm probably pulling a lot off of what he did in the FedEx last year. But when I look at his results this year, he played well in the Masters. He played well last week. He's got a lot of, tied for 30th, tied for 40th, or tied for 50th. For me, we talk about goals in our golf game. I'm trying to get to 30 putts. Matthew's trying to get to scratch. The goal for my fantasy team needs to start being, let's just get neutral or positive points every week, not negative.
And
points.
Real quick, so you offered the potential to switch up our alternate. I'm gonna listen to our good friend Doug Bell after we finished the interview. He gave us his flyer pick. His flyer pick was Ben On. Ben On just finished in 3rd at Quail. I'm gonna listen to my friend Doug. I'm gonna go with Ben On, and of course this means that your champion this week will be Tommy Fleetwood. So congrats to Tommy, but I'm going Ben On. So I'm going
to
switch out my
the
6th
friend
pick.
of the program. You have
friend
to
of the program.
You
right.
enjoy watching Ben On this week and seeing BB go blasted in your face from his shirt.
It's just an ongoing. When's your birthday?
My birthday is February 20th.
Okay, I need to keep that in mind. I'm going to get you a BB Go shirt.
Charles and I got a birthday 3 days apart. Is that we're just gonna have a big BB Go birthday party?
Birthday party at Pop Stroke presented by BB Go.
Well, that's all we got for you guys. Super excited. Another major event this week, and again, we appreciate Doug jumping on and talking to us leading up to the PGA, and we'll definitely have him back on. Either maybe later this year or next season. Just depends on his schedule. I know he's super busy, but and again, I just want to thank the Regions Championship or for allowing Charles to go and get credentialed and be able to cover the Pro-Am, and also be able to cover like Dickie Pride, Stuart Sink, and all of those guys, and then additionally the Dunlap family for allowing me to walk around with them and just pick their brains, and again wish them the best. And although I picked JT, I'm gonna be rooting hard for Dunlap and hope he at least gets in the top 10 so that he can get those world golf ranking points, so his family can go take a nice trip over to the UK for the British Open. So
well, they can't drive to the UK. How are they going to
get there? I guess they'll rent a boat or something to allow him to fish while he's while they're going across. But with that, guys, I appreciate you guys listening to us, and hopefully this is a good week for all of us, and we'll come back next week. And the Fighting Sykes with the fantasy lead is gonna finally take down the Matthew Travis train that can't be stopped right now. So and then hopefully Charles still stays in the pimento cheese bowl is what I'm hoping. But
I have a prediction. I think Charles breaks 100 points this week.
I hope so. I hope it doesn't go backwards again.
What was the
Again.
tournament that made us everyone went backwards besides me?
Was it the Byron?
I think it
Yeah.
might have been the Byron.
Or yeah, because the Zurich, I think we were all like 0, 10, 15. But I think I think for the Byron, I got 0. I think Charles got -10 and you got like 15 or something.
Yeah. See, I told you, and I told you at the beginning of this, my goal is to be consistent every week, get consistent points, because there's going to be weeks where you guys get 0 points, get negative points. And if I'm consistently scoring, then, then I'm doing well. So with that, guys, we'll talk again next week, and roll tide.
Roll Tide.